You're 8 years old, and it's pitch black, and you're walking into a cave that goes back further than any torch can reach. Your feet are small, bare probably, and right next to your footprints, sunk into the same soft mud 26,000 years ago, is another set of prints. For paws, big ones. Not a wolf's stride. A wolf trots in a tight, purposeful line, like it's got somewhere to be. These prints wander. They pause when the kid pauses. They walk beside, not ahead, not behind. That trail is real. It's in Chauvet Cave in France, discovered in 2001, and it stretches roughly 150 feet through total darkness. Hang on to that image. We're coming back to it, and by the end it's going to mean something very different than it does right now. Here's what almost nobody gets right about how dogs came to exist. There was no clever caveman who crawled into a wolf den, grabbed the least murder-y-looking pup, and raised it into a hunting buddy. That story is comforting. It's also basically fiction. Adult wolves don't tame. Even hand-raised wolf pups, bottle-fed from birth by scientists who dedicated entire careers to the attempt, grow up to be wolves, cautious, food-aggressive, structurally incapable of reading a human face the way a dog does instinctively, without a single lesson. Whatever happened, it wasn't a training montage. Nobody was out here doing the Stone Age equivalent of a dog whisperer YouTube tutorial. So what did happen? Honestly, we don't know the exact age. Genetic estimates for when dog and wolf lineages split apart range anywhere from 20,000 to 40,000 years ago, and researchers have been arguing about narrowing that window for decades, comparing ancient DNA samples that keep almost but not quite agreeing with each other. Scientists love a good consensus. This is not that. What we do have is a floor. A hard, physical, undeniable floor. Germany, 1914, a quarry near Bonn. Workers pull 3 sets of remains out of the ground. 2 adult humans, and between them, a dog. Later dating puts the burial at roughly 14,200 years old, making it the oldest confirmed domestic dog skeleton on Earth. Not wolf-like. Not probably. Confirmed dog. Here's the part that gets skipped over. In 2018, a team led by Stony Brook geneticist Krishna Virma went back and analyzed that dog's teeth and bone chemistry. What they found rewrites the entire dogs were useful, so we kept them theory. This puppy had contracted canine distemper, a brutal, often fatal virus, at around 19 weeks old. For at least 6 weeks after that, it would have been vomiting, feverish, seizing, completely unable to walk long distances, let alone hunt, guard, or do a single job a Stone Age human might have wanted from it. It wasn't useful. It was a liability, and an expensive one. Every scrap of food fed to a dying animal was food that didn't go to a hungry human in a world with no backup fridge. And somebody kept it alive anyway, until it eventually died a few months later and was buried like family, not discarded like a failed experiment. That's not a working relationship. That's something closer to love, showing up in the archaeological record before dogs had done a single practical thing to earn it. So if it wasn't built on usefulness, what was it built on? This is where the science gets genuinely strange, and where you have to throw out the idea of one clean domestication event entirely. In 2016, a large international team led by Oxford archaeologist Gregor Larson published genetic evidence for something almost nobody expected. 2 separate domestication events happening independently in Eastern and Western Eurasia, thousands of miles apart, that later collided and interbred as human populations migrated. There wasn't an Adam and Eve wolf sitting at the root of every dog on Earth. There were, at minimum, 2 separate breakups between wolf packs and their wild cousins, on opposite sides of a continent, arriving at the same strange destination without comparing notes, which raises an uncomfortable question for our species' ego. Were we even the ones in control here? Because the transformation wasn't just attitude, it was architecture. Zoologist Raymond Coppinger and later researchers proposed that early dogs' brains shrank meaningfully relative to wolf brains of similar body size, concentrated in regions tied to threat response, though the exact percentage is still debated, and not every researcher agrees on the scale. Here's the plain language version. Debate aside, you weren't just breeding a calmer animal. You were, without meaning to, breeding an animal that needed less internal alarm system, because for the first time in that lineage's history, humans were doing some of that worrying for them, and the rewiring went further than nerves. In the early 2000s, Duke anthropologist Brian Hare ran a now-famous test. Point at one of 2 covered bowls. See which animal understands you're handing them information. Chimpanzees, sharing roughly 98% of our DNA, mostly fail this. Wolves, even hand-raised ones, mostly fail it too. Dog puppies, barely out of the litter, pass it reliably. First try, like it's obvious. Our closest genetic relative can't do the thing your neighbor's golden retriever does before breakfast, and that should honestly bother chimps more than it does. Around the same time all of this was unfolding, the brutal, glacier-choked stretch between roughly 40,000 and 25,000 years ago, something else was happening in Europe. Neanderthals were disappearing. One hypothesis, championed by paleoanthropologist Pat Shipman, argues these 2 facts aren't a coincidence. Her invasive species theory suggests early wolf dogs may have given Homo sapiens a hunting edge Neanderthals didn't have, animals that could run down and pin large game, freeing humans to finish the kill from a distance instead of wrestling a bison at arm's length. It's disputed. Shipman herself is upfront that it's a hypothesis, not a settled mechanism. But if there's even a kernel of truth in it, dogs weren't just a nice addition to human life. They may have been a factor in which human species made it out of the Ice Age at all. Now here's a small, almost throwaway detail that quietly changes the ending. Fast forward past the Ice Age to around 7,000 years ago, when humans start farming in earnest. A 2013 study out of Uppsala University, led by geneticist Eric Axelson, found dog genomes had picked up extra copies of a gene called AMY2B, which helps break down starch. Wolves carry almost none of it. Dogs carry up to 30 copies. Translation: as humans shifted from hunting to growing grain, dogs' bodies shifted right along with us, evolving the ability to digest a diet no wolf could survive on long term. They didn't just adapt to us. They adapted to whatever we happened to be eating that century, which, if you think about it, is basically still happening. Somewhere right now, a dog is side-eyeing a drop piece of pizza crust with a digestive system that exists specifically because its ancestors ate our leftovers for 10,000 years. That dog has no idea it's the beneficiary of a Bronze Age agricultural revolution. It just knows the crust fell. By the time actual civilizations show up, Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, dogs aren't a curiosity anymore. They're guarding grain stores, herding livestock that didn't even exist yet when this relationship started, carved into tomb walls with individual names, collars, identities their owners wanted remembered forever. The wolf that split off from its pack tens of thousands of years earlier had, without anyone planning it, ended up fully absorbed into human civilization before civilization had even finished being invented. And look at where that leaves us now. People run DNA ancestry kits on their dogs the same way they'd run one on themselves, half expecting the results to say 63% very good boy. Landlords write pet clauses into leases like they're negotiating a treaty. There's a multi-billion-dollar pet insurance industry built on the premise that of course you'd rather go into debt than lose the dog. None of that makes sense for an animal we supposedly domesticated for labor and nothing else. It makes complete sense for an animal that's been walking beside us, adapting its brain, its gut, its whole nervous system to us for over 26,000 years. Which brings us back to that cave in France. A child, barefoot, in total darkness, and something four-legged pacing its steps to match hers. Not hunting her, not trailing her like prey, just walking with her through the dark like it already understood something the rest of its species hadn't figured out yet. Tonight, somewhere, someone is going to walk their dog down a dark street, and the dog is going to slow down when they slow down, and speed up when they speed up, matching a rhythm that isn't instinct. It's 26,000 years of practice. Different cave, same footprints.